Every 15 minutes, someone dies from completing suicide. That's roughly 38,000 suicides each year. To put that into perspective, that's twice as many people that die from traffic fatalities in a year. So what's happening? Well, roughly 90% of all suicides are related to mental health illnesses, and global mental health is an area of public health that's a little bit behind. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmary. There it is, right there. Mental well-being is part of the definition of health. So why is it that we are so timid around this topic? Well, it's because mental health is frequently stigmatized around the world, and some cultures don't even have words to describe mental health illnesses. And on top of that, it's a difficult topic to discuss. This is exactly what global mental health professionals work to address. They want to break the stigmas around mental health to decrease the global burden of disease due to mental and neurological disorders and to improve overall well-being of people. But mental health and well-being go beyond neurological health. Did you know that depression is a risk factor for developing chronic diseases like hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes? Mental health is a complicated area to study. It is extremely integral for our personal well-being and health, and can be affected by so many things like the community you live in, your access to care, sexuality, whether or not you use substances like alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs, if you've moved between cities and countries, and even how and why you moved to your new home. Global mental health professionals can be researchers, scientists, physicians, field staff, and even people working in outreach. Some work with healthcare and data analysis, some work in the humanitarian setting with refugees and asylum seekers, some work in the clinical or hospital settings, and some work with organizations to change policies and to provide more resources to people. Here at NYU GPH, we work with all of the factors that impact daily life, teach you how to ask questions to assess mental health, how to conduct mental health research, how to develop themes about why one community might be more affected than another, and prepare you to work with this complex topic in many different settings.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, all on one. I hope everyone had a great Sunday lunch because I know I did. And welcome, welcome, welcome to this afternoon's UWI Guild of Students in collaboration with the UWI Guild National Affairs Committee, the Students Activities Committee, and the Games Committee Mental Health Awareness Day session team, the Afternoon of Minds. My name is Darian Thomas, and I am your chairperson for the UWI Guild of Students National Affairs Committee. Now, as many of you all may know, that today is Mental Health Day. And so because of that, the Guild will be having three fruitful sessions to help and cope with mental health. The first session is the National Affairs Committee panel discussion on educating on mental health and inspiring others to overcome it as well. The second session is under our Games Committee, which is an interactive session of yoga and relaxation. And finally, a movie under the Students Activities Committee. Now, today we have some great and dynamic panel speakers who would love to share on mental health and how to overcome it. But before we begin, let me introduce you, your moderator this afternoon session, who is the lovely and rather charming Guild Public Relations Officer and the chairperson of the Guild Public Relations Committee, Tamika Thomas.
Thank you so much, Darian, for that lovely address. Good afternoon, all to our viewing audience on YouTube and Facebook. We are here, the Guild of Students. We are here, the National Affairs Committee, the Guild Games Committee, as well as the Students Affairs Committee. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Afternoon of Mindfulness. Now, as Darren would have rightfully said, today is World Mental Health Awareness Day, and this year's theme is Mental Health in an Unequal World, as said by the World Federation for Mental Health. Now, we know that mental health is a national as well as regional and international issue. Even at the best of times, we need to have some meaningful support in the communities, whichever we are in, because it has become even more relevant now that we have to navigate the pandemic and all of the challenges that we face in school as well. Having said that, I would just like to introduce you all to some of our lovely panelists here today with us, who will be engaging in a lovely and fruitful discussion on mental health. Firstly, we have our Students Affairs Committee, Student Activities Committee Chairwoman, Ms. Jordan Pereira. Ms. Sharon Pereira. She is here. We also have our Games Committee Chairwoman, Ms. Bernadette Antwine. And we also have two very special speakers here with us who we will get into shortly. We have Ms. Rashida Ramkilawan as well as Mr. Justin Rodriguez. So firstly, we'd like to start off our discussion on what exactly is mental health, because some persons may not be aware of the importance of mental health. So now we'd like to invite Ms. Pereira to tell us a bit about what exactly is mental health.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ms. Thomas, for that lovely introduction. So my name is Joanna Pereira, and I will talk to you a little bit about what mental health is. So what exactly is mental health? When you hear those words mental and health, do you first think of stress or depression or anxiety? Well, this isn't the case most of the time. Mental health is not so closed off. Mental health is an umbrella term that encompasses emotional, psychological, physiological, and social well-being. It relates to how you feel and act. Mental health problems come from a variety of sources such as biological factors, life experiences, family predispositions. Mental health affects your daily living, relationships, and physical health. It affects those interpersonal connections, and in return, interpersonal connections can affect your mental health. Remember, mental health and mental disorders or illnesses are not one and the same. They are separate things. Example of mental disorders are anxiety, depression, and bipolar. However, you could have strained mental health being experienced without actually having a disorder. You could have mental fatigue or tiredness without being diagnosed. Simple things that you feel are non-issues, so to speak, can be early warning signs of a burnout. Little things like changes in mood, changes in diet, and eating too much or too little, all those things could show fatigue. Things like having emotional stress or having low energy, also symptomatic of low fatigue. Remember, do not be afraid to seek help and reach out to your friends and trusted loved ones. Thank you, and I hand it back over.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pearl, for that lovely, and insightful discourse on what exactly is mental health. As I would have said, not a lot of persons know the definition and the importance of mental health. So thank you once again for sharing that with us. Now that we know the importance of it, I would just like to invite our Games Committee Chair, Ms. Bernadette Antwine, to speak a bit about the mitigation of mental health stress, as Ms. Pereira would have rightfully said, through exercise, and how exercise can help us alleviate some of the difficulties and challenges that we may face mentally.
Thank you very much, Ms. Summers, for that. Now, as Ms. Pearl said that mental health is not just depression, it extends way beyond that, and being involved in physical activities like sports, exercise, doing a little quick run improves your not only overall health, but your mental health. It reduces, it lowers your tension, it reduces stress. It also brings a positive energy and discipline to your life. And I'm just going to touch on 3 ways in which mental health and sports goes together. 3 ways. 1, it helps moderate stress. Now, exercise causes your body to release endorphins, the chemicals in your brain that relieve pain and stress. And it also reduces the levels of stress hormones and adrenaline. And a second way is it improves your mood. When you go to run, you feel better, your head is clearer, you think straight. And it just gives you this accomplished feeling of, you're better and whatnot. It also helps fight addiction, as well as it helps boost your self-esteem. Now, I'm just going to quickly touch on personal experience, and I'm going out here and I said that how sports has helped me with my mental health. Now, I have been diagnosed with depression and suicidal tendencies, and having these 2 things, going to school, managing all these things, is very hard. It's very stressful on me. And I do track, and if I'm being honest, track or doing exercise really helps me. It really helps me with my depression in terms of I'm going to run episode, I go outside and run 20 minutes, I feel so much better. Like my head is clearer. I forget what I was even thinking about, all those thoughts. No, that is just me personally, but it really puts me into a good and positive mood. It's put me into a good and positive energy. And this is one of the factors that sports can help on your mental impact, that sports can help on your mental illness. And for GCC, as a GCC chairperson, I know a lot of it tends we really focus on sports, but I really want to focus not on only sports and physical activities, but also education of sports and also health, nutrition, wellness, mental health. Like I had a session a couple of weeks ago speaking about mental health, suicide prevention. And I feel like all of this, we really need to speak about this more and bring mental health to the forefront more. And those are my contributions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Antoine, for that. As I would have said to those that are now joining us, this is the afternoon of mindfulness presented to you by the Guild of Students' National Affairs Committee, Games Committee, as well as the Student Activities Committee. This year's theme is mental health in an unequal world. And we would have just received a contribution by Miss Antoine, Games Committee Chairperson, on how we can help alleviate stress in this trying time. And before I continue this discussion over to our other panelists, Ms. Antoine would have shared some of her personal experiences with mental health. She touched on how we can help to manage stress even during this time, given the pandemic, as well as the stressful nature of academics. So I'd just like to return to Ms. Pereira as well for her to share a bit about some of her struggles or some of her realizations when it comes to dealing with mental health.
Thank you and good afternoon. So for me personally, mental health has been something very near and dear to my heart. In the University of West Indies, my first degree, my minor was psychology. However, as a personal experience, I had a lot of mental health struggles. I too suffer with depression, anxiety, all these things. At first, people tend to invalidate your struggle and say, okay, well, chin up, it's going to be fine, think positive. It is okay to feel bad at sometimes, it's fine, it's absolutely human. And the thing about it is, if it is people telling you, okay, just think positive, then how could you as a depressed person just think positive? How could you will yourself? It's okay to need help and it's okay to seek out some positive reinforcement. Because at the end of the day, there's no shame about mental health. Everyone has struggles and everyone feels this way. Everyone is going through the pandemic together. Everyone has stress from school, from work, from family. So from the time we realize that we ourselves are not by ourselves, we could finally end the stigma for mental health and seek out help. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Pereira. I am in definite agreement with that. I myself also struggle a bit with when it comes to anxiety, especially when it comes to academics. But I just like to transfer the conversation over to Darian, our National Affairs Committee chairperson, to tell us a little bit about his dealings with mental health, because he has a different perspective. He is male, we are female, it may differ. So Darian, can you tell us a little bit about mental health and you? Thank you.
Well, how I experience mental health is in terms of stress. I'm the National Affairs Committee chairperson. I'm also an accountant / auditor. I have my family to see about. So it's so much that I have to do. And then I'm also active in my church and then my business and stuff like that. So sometimes it just be overwhelming. But with me in particular, I try to find my secret place, which is listening to music, preferably soca music. Not everybody would say that they love soca, but that's my secret place, listening to soca music by myself and being in my corner. That's how I try to deal with it.
Thank you so much for sharing how you cope with your mental health struggles. It's very important that you brought that up because we are going to actually head on over to Mr. Amkilawan now, who is going to tell us about boundaries and coping mechanisms when it comes to mental health. But allow me to introduce her for those of you who may not know who she is. Ms. Rashida Ramkilawan is an advocate for mental health, and she's also the president of the UWI Student Psychology Association and vice president of the Psyche and the Public Relations Director for the UWI Peer Counseling Association. Now we can see that all of the committees and clubs that she is involved in, mental health is a topic that is inevitably going to be there. So we are going to now invite Mr. Ramkilawan to tell us a bit about boundaries and coping mechanisms. Mr. Ramkilawan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roseda, and before I touch on the boundaries and coping strategies, I just want to reiterate that good mental health is finding a balance of slow, consistent growth while accepting your vulnerabilities. So this is where the boundaries come in to protect your emotional development and accommodating your capacity for mental strain. So to make it simpler, we need to set boundaries or limits when you deal with persons or particular situations. This will help you figure out how you want to respond to something or someone and how much you will allow it to affect you. This will enable us to prioritize ourselves and the values we hold to better our self-care. For instance, if you know you had a bad week and your friend calls you up to complain that maybe one of the siblings took their clothes, if you're feeling overwhelmed in that moment, it is okay to say, I'm sorry, I just don't have the mental capacity or energy to give you my full attention, but I will call you back. Doing this shows them that there's a set limit to how you feel right now, and they will respect that. And doing this will also communicate with others that there are times where you need space for yourself, and that is completely okay. Now, that's boundaries. Now, if I have to talk about coping strategies are how you deal with certain levels of stress. Everybody is different, it will vary, but there are some that can help for most people. One in particular is called emotional regulation. This deals with certain activities you can do to help you feel better or to feel calm. There's one called enabling the five senses to help you feel present in the moment and to help you feel grounded. Now, you can look for 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Doing this actually helps you to feel more grounded. You become more aware of your surroundings. There's another thing called visualization exercises. By drawing or writing how you feel, this allows you to recognize certain triggers or helps you to understand how you are doing your process through your mental health journey. Now, another strategy is called limiting your exposure to social media. There's this thing we do where we mindlessly scroll through everything. I do it too. And this is called doom scrolling if you only want to view bad content. Like, let's say you continuously look through all the news during the pandemic and your anxiety shoots up, right? You need to learn to limit it because that actually increases your anxiety and your depression. Another strategy you can use, finding things that bring you a sense of calm and stability, it will vary for everyone. So it can be from baking to having your headphones with a tune to drown the world out. I'm sure Darren can relate. So you need to find what works for you. And many people suggest having a structure in terms of sleeping and eating on a regular basis. But even when doing this, you should be honest and acknowledge your emotions. So when setting scheduled times, make sure you have times for deserved rest or breaks because you will need it. You know yourself best. Adjust it to how it will work for you. And lastly, for coping strategy, maintain connections with your loved ones. And this will help to reduce anxiety and bring you comfort amidst the roller coaster of emotions you feel when alone. And to close, I have 2 myths and 2 quick facts to tell you. 2 myths most people have and the stigma against mental health. One of them is you aren't trying hard enough when you slip up or make mistakes. That's completely false. You will stumble when trying to stick to healthy coping strategies. It is part of the process, so don't be hard on yourself. It will actually be worrying if you didn't make any mistakes because it will just prove that you're putting pressure, on yourself, and you don't want that. Take a ease up on yourself. Allow yourself to make the mistakes and learn from them. It is a process, and this is okay. The last myth is about those who think that they don't need to ask anyone for help. That's false. You need to ask for help or talk it out with a trusted person, and this makes a significant difference. It reminds you that you aren't as alone as you feel, and even advice from a professional does more good than you'd expect. The main advice professionals in this field will tell you is that what you feel most times doesn't always equal the facts. And they tell you this for you to help you out on your journey. And quick word of advice: those of us in the mental health field, professionals, students, we all feel this little worry that we need to talk to it about somebody. But fact of the matter is, we all learn that we need to talk to someone, and we all do it now. So it's okay. You're not alone in this, and there are plenty avenues to get help from. Thank you for your time, and thank you so much for listening.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Ramkilawan. You would have said quite a bit on mental health, dealing with mental health, coping strategies that can be used, and some of the triggers when it comes to stabilizing your mental health. So I know that you would have mentioned that social media tends to be a big distraction and a trigger in itself when it comes to mental wellness. So can you tell me some other things that may impact your mental wellness other than social media, some that might be present in your daily life?
So daily life, that can be your exams, from dealing with things in university. It doesn't only have to be exams, it could be interpersonal relationships as well, how you all will communicate. I know especially during the isolation, during the pandemic, and then it has been increasingly worried with the frustration everyone feels, and they don't convey how they feel in a communicative or best way possible. They take out their frustrations on their loved ones, and it has been proven that they have more stress, they feel more anxiety, more depression, and even in instances the anger, they don't know how to manage it and not serving them very well. So these are things that actually cause more triggers and actually impact your mental health very badly. So this is why we would suggest, if you know you feel this way, it's good to contact someone.
Thank you so much for that. And it is true, that is very true. Your daily life is also, it also impacts your mental health. We are here literally every day. So I'd just like to ask you a bit about how can we identify that a person is dealing with mental health issues? Because mental health is such a thing where it's not really something that can be noticed right away. So, what would you say are some of your inferences that a person may be dealing with some mental health issues?
There are many signs to look out for. Sometimes we are so caught up in our own self, we don't recognize them. One of them is someone who you may know, like they're very chatty by nature, and you see that they're keeping to themselves more often than usual. Check in on them. It could be that they are depressed or they feel overwhelmed and they just don't know how to say, "Hey, I'm not doing so well." So if they feel reclusive, if you think that they're keeping a distance from you, reach out to them. Another instance, if you think someone is being more moody than usual, like let's say someone who doesn't usually have like an angry outburst, but they suddenly have an outburst over, let's say, something trivial like a game or a TV show, maybe just checking on them, asking if they are doing okay. Another thing is if you realize that they have trouble eating or sleeping and is lasting for prolonged periods of time, you really need to get in touch with them and ask them, are you okay? What's going on? And this has happened to a lot of students where you'll need to intervene and ask them what's going on. So these are simple ways to identify it. The last thing I can say is if they directly tell you that they have a problem, and they may not do it in a direct way. Sometimes they could make it out to be a joke, or other times it could be where they seriously say it, and they may say it like during exam times, but you might think, oh, it's just general stress from exams. But it could be more to it. So always ask them, always ask.
Thank you so much for that. We will definitely take all those words of wisdom to be sure to be on the lookout for persons who may be dealing with mental health issues. As I would have said, is not exactly something that you can pinpoint by looking at a person and diagnosing. So having said that, and you are a professional in the field somewhat, so can you let us know a bit about what UWI has to offer when it comes to treatment for mental health and who students can turn to?
Right, so we have, I was going to say 3, but I had to remember one important more. We have 4 avenues you can actually seek out mental health from, advice or information. So the first one, we have CAPS on campus. CAPS is the counseling and psychological department. They offer a lot of services for students. So we have professional counselors on the campus. You can get in touch on them through the email and through the number. But the email is counselor@sta.uwi.edu. You email them, set up an appointment, and you can actually get in touch with a counselor within a matter of weeks. It's that simple. You also have the Peer Counseling Association. You can get in touch with us at uepca@gmail.com. Now, it's important to recognize that there's a difference between these two. CAPS is for professional health peer counselors. They are trained, yes, by CAPS, but they are your fellow peers. And the reason we have this is that you may feel more comfortable talking to a student, who's going through the same things as you, the same assignments, the same UE issues. So they will understand, and you might like that level of comfort more than a professional. So we have that in place for you as well. There's also the Student Psychology Association. Now, we tend to have sessions where we do check-ins with our members. We like to see how you're doing, if you're okay, if you need any help for anything. And we also have activities to help brighten up your mood, because it's not only about studies and getting information about mental health. We stick true to our word. So we have activities to help you feel better, feel more relaxed, feel more enjoyment throughout your UE experience. Psychi, on the other hand, that is more educational, where we educate the public on what mental health is like, all the avenues, all the issues. We discuss it on panel sessions just as this one. And a final club you can turn to is UE Survival Scholars. They are fairly new, but they focus more on the stress you feel during exams, as well as ways to cope and how to become an achiever and a warrior through your UE struggles. And those are basically the avenues you can turn to in UE if you need any help for mental health.
Okay, thank you so much for that lovely, lovely discourse. Once again, Ms. Ram Kilawan, for those that are joining us, is a long-time advocate for mental health. And she would have just shared with us some important boundaries that we can set up for ourselves to protect ourselves and our mental health, as well as ways that we can possibly cope with any issues that we may be facing. Now, I'd just like to open the floor for everyone to share a bit about some more of our mental health struggles. This is a very honest and open session in honor of the day itself, and we will be transparent in that regard and put some of our insecurities, well, they should not be insecurities, we just need to get more comfortable with saying that we ourselves do struggle with mental health issues. So I'd just like to ask, what does mental health progress look like to you? For me, I know that when I'm in a good state mentally, I usually tend to look forward to things more. I'm happy to see friends. I'm planning way ahead of time versus if I'm, down in a dump, I might not even look forward to the next hour or the rest of the day because I'm only able to focus on the deep hole that I'm in mentally right now. So that is one of the ways, or one of the ways I can definitely say that mental health progress looks like to me. Ms. Antoine, I know you'd probably want to contribute to that.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, one of the ways which my progress looks for me, well, when I had like depression, like very deep in depression, I developed an eating disorder where I would go like days without eating. Like I just wouldn't feel hungry. I just would just not eat anything, even besides people forcing me. I just was like, yeah, we'll eat later, and just never. So how my mental health progresses when I eat in. So I will eat like at least 3 times a day or 4 times a day, like for a week. And I was like, okay, you're doing good this week. You're doing good. So that is how I look at it. That's my progress. Yeah.
Thank you. And that is such a salient point to note. We don't often talk about the harmful effects of dealing with a bad state of mental health. It can be very traumatic and dangerous to go long terms or long periods of time without making sure that you're at peace within. So, Ms. Pereira, I'd like you to share a bit about what your progress looks like.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you so much. So for me personally, I want to reiterate what Bernadette said. First of all, I used to have problems with eating as well. So when I was really deeply depressed, I actually stopped eating altogether. I would just drink like a slushy every day, and that would be enough. But then afterwards, I started overeating, which was like the flip. So once they had put me on medication, I started overeating and I gained a lot of weight. So I was like, this isn't healthy at all. So for me, having just a regular balanced diet, that is progress. As well, what I've noticed, and persons hardly talk about this, is mania. So instead of actually where persons go slow and do, well, basically just pour back into themselves, we have mania. So mania is always go, 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 go. You always need to do something. You always need to be a part of something. After one assignment, you just hyper functional. You're doing a next assignment. You're in this club, you're in that club. You're going out. You need to be in every picture. You need to be in every film and every movie, everything, right? You just need to be a part of everything. And then sometimes afterwards, when one minor disturbance happens, you could fall back and then you'll just become just regular, just you'll crash. So for me, whenever I see that happening, I say, okay, Jordan, you are doing too much, or you're taking on too much for your plate, and you will push yourself too much until you crash. So for me, having just a balanced diet and a balanced timetable, that to me is progress. So that's my experience.
Thank you so much for that. It is very interesting to hear that we all deal with mental health in a very different way. Progress looks different for everyone. There is no rule book of what progress should look like for each person. So it is important that we, recognize that. But I just like to further add, Ms. Pereira, for those of you who may not know as well, she's also the Student Activities Chairwoman. And you guys have been having quite a good semester thus far. Especially when it comes to Whispers. And can you tell us a bit about what Whispers is and how it contributes to the topic today, which is mental health?
Okay, thank you. So what we have is Whispers, and this is an anonymous posting service. So basically, you can go on the SAC's Instagram in our link tree and then submit what it is you feel. Persons typically use pen names. So some people have things like A, some people have hamburger helper, and they just want to vent. So it isn't going up to anywhere. It doesn't go to the vice president. It doesn't go to the president. It doesn't go to the deputy principal. It's just a way for you to see yourself being heard, and we acknowledge it. Most times I tell my PROs, be personable. You want a personable response when it is you post it. So if ever you feel like you need to talk to someone, then you could always post a whisper or submit a whisper and we'll post it up for you.
Thank you so much for that. You guys can definitely check out Whispers on the SAC Instagram. Ms. Pereira could also share that with us. Whispers is a great way for you to feel seen and heard. As she would have said, persons might struggle with asking for help, as Ms. Ramkilan would have said. So being that this is an anonymous service, it is something that you guys can definitely look into. Further to that, I'd also like for Ms. Antoine to share what the Games Committee has been doing thus far in terms of tackling mental health. They've been doing it from the beginning. So, Ms. Antoine, can you share a bit about what the GC has to offer?
Hi. So, no problem. Thanks, Tamika. So again, as I stated, we started the semester with Suicide Prevention Week. So we had a week full of information regards suicide prevention, what it is, the emotions, etc. And then to end the week, we had a session with the head of CAPS, Dr. Sarah Chinhike. And so we just wanted to cover that area. And then currently we are going on to more physical events and trying to get students involved because, again, as I said, sports is like a stress reliever, so exercise is a stress reliever. And that is what we are doing coming up so far. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that contribution as well. And I'd just like to return to Ms. Ramkilan for her to share a bit about what progress looks like to her.
Progress to me looks like you are acknowledging how you feel, you're more honest with how you feel, and you make it more public to others. When I mean public, like you're actually able to communicate it with loved ones, from your parents to your siblings to your friends, so that they can also understand how you feel or if to look for certain triggers. I think it's good to have accountability with loved ones so that you can actually help each other out on your journey, and also not to place so much stress on yourself. So if you know you're slipping, that's actually okay. You allow yourself for the mistake and then you say, okay, I'm going to start again. I'm going to try to do better. Rather than just like Ms. Pereira would have said, you just go, no matter what. That's too much pressure on yourself. So go at your own pace. It's different for everyone. Take it one step at a time. For me, that is actually healthy progress.
And thank you for bringing that up. I'd just like to follow up by asking, why would you say it's important for persons to be aware of mental health issues? What would have been like some of the benefits of being part of a counseling group or seeking out advice from a therapist or whatnot?
So this is important because most people you aren't sure how you feel or why something is happening to you, the first thing you will think to do is to go online and search for it. And this is bad because not everything on the internet is factual. Not everything will work well for you because each individual is different. So this is why talking to a counselor or talking to a professional, they actually sit with you and they actually help you walk through with you actually, step by step, what has been bothering you. And it can be linked to things from childhood because there's something called unresolved trauma from childhood that it does manifest itself in adulthood. So these professionals with their years of experience will be able to pick up on it and be like, okay, I recognize this is an issue from childhood and it's been persistent throughout your adolescence and adulthood. So they can pick up on these things. And this is why it is so important to actually talk to a professional or someone who knows what they're doing because they can help you through this rather than you might mention to someone who may not be as well versed in it. So let's say you talk to a loved one, they give you the support, yes, they're there for you, they help you, but the professional will actually be able to give you solid advice on what you can do to move forward and make more progress.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And I'd also extend the same question to Miss Antoine, because you would have touched on, mental health and it dealing with the mind, but I'd just like to touch on how important it is for you to also stay active when your mind seems to be a bit conflicted and you may be confuffled. So, Miss Antoine, can you tell us a bit about why it's important to keep moving even when you have mental health stress? Why is physical exercise still important in that regard?
Okay, no problem. Hi. So again, as I said, when you're going through some stuff, your mind is okay, I'm going to use this term. Your mind is just confuffled, your mind is studying everything, it's all these negative effects, whatnot. And with exercise, your mind feels free, your concentration is okay, let's pick up the breathing, let's slow down the breathing, how many steps I'm taking, what I'm doing. So it redirects your mind, it redirects your brain into this different direction. And after you do all of this, like you run a chancellor, you feel okay, yes, this is good. I feel good, I accomplished something. And it just adds to your mood like, I did this, I completed this hill, I completed this task. So that is it's being very important to move, stay active, even if it's a little walk, because again, you may not be walking, but a little 20 minutes walk, that's something big to you. So your brain recognizes that I can still do this, I can still be me, I can still move and be active.
Hey, thank you for telling us that. You guys can definitely check out the Games Committee on Instagram as well. They are having quite a number of activities for students to keep moving, be active, especially during this time. It is very important. So do check out all the Games Committee has to offer. I'd just like to return to Ms. Pereira for her to tell us a bit more about considering the feedback that you would have to give to the persons who submit whispers. You said that you yourself deal with mental health struggles, and even as a person who may be dealing with some issues, you still give advice. What advice, or what is some of the advice that you would have given persons, or some healthy thoughts that you think, could have redirected them to a better place that you can possibly share with us?
Hi, thank you. So basically, when it says we have a whisper and it comes in, and I don't want to say the contents of some of the whispers, but some of them are very interesting, so to speak. There's a lot of personal information in whispers. The ones that we post tend to be the more or the less personal ones. It has a lot of stress about UWI right now. A lot of them talk about the guild even. They talk about how UWI is stressful. They want to go back in real life. Whenever we post a whisper, we always attach the tag. If it is you feel like you need professional help, we are not professionals, but seek out professionals. We have CAPS, we have all these services available. Each whisper is personal to us, and I try my best to always have a little caption at the bottom saying, okay, we feel this way as well, because it's important to know that you are not alone. A lot of time people think that they are just an island unto themselves, but in reality, we all go through very similar experiences. Another thing I could talk about right now is the iBody system as well, where people feel alone. What we're trying to do is have a virtual pen pal system launching at 9 o'clock tonight. And basically, if it is you ever want a friend to talk to, we have virtual pen pals via emails, and we'll pair you up based on interest, not based on pictures or physical appearances. It's not a dating service. And we want people to be able to reach out in this virtual space and just have someone to talk to. So thank you, and I can hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much for that. You guys be sure to stay tuned for the iBody system that is happening tonight. Do check out the post that is on all of our social media, NEC, Games Committee, as well as student activities, and the social media of the Guild to see how you can be paired with someone who may share the same struggles as you. So we are continuing our discussion on mental health as of right now. So I'd just like to invite Mr. Justin Rodriguez. He holds a master's in educational psychology, and he is an educational psychologist. Just to share a bit about who he is, he holds a Bachelor of Science degree in behavioral sciences, and there's an emphasis on psychology and sociology. Subsequent to this, he would have completed a certificate in social work before deciding to pursue his master's in educational psychology. And he facilitates the employee assistance programs for a number of government and non-government companies. And he holds a specialist training in traumatic incident reduction and art therapy. Mr. Rodriguez is also the former chairman of a local school board and has extensive experience working with children, both with and without special needs. And he also has a number of different interests, including athletics, music, and swimming, and he's also a dancer. So we just like to invite to the floor Mr. Justin Rodriguez, who is going to tell us a bit more and even add further to the conversation about mental health, and more particularly so what mental health is not. So Mr. Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and the floor is yours.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. You hear me, right? All right. So thank you for having me. I'm Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Justin Rodriguez, and I'm here to speak a bit on mental health. But before I get into, what mental health is and how I define mental health, how I try to have people understand mental health, I like to speak about what mental health is not. So we exist in this Caribbean culture. A great many of us here are Trinis. We have this Trini culture where we attribute mental health to mental illness. So automatically we hear psychology, we hear counseling, we hear therapy. We have a particular narrative that we go along. And I'll just give you all 2 seconds just to think about it. What comes to mind when you hear mental health, psychology, counseling? Mad people, right? And we even have a place that we attribute it to automatically, St. Anne's. So if you hear Justin going to therapy or Justin has a counseling session, is a red flag, because you think, well, okay, you can't be in the same room with Justin because Justin might be unpredictable and out of control, erratic. Justin might flip a table. Justin might do something extreme, and that is not the case. So when we speak about mental health, we attribute to mental illness, and we look at the violent outbursts, we look at the unpredictability, we look at the irregularity in emotions, and these things speak to mental health, mental illness. Sorry. So mental health, what exactly is mental health? Just as everyone has physical health, everyone has mental health. Just as not everyone has a physical illness, not everyone has a mental illness. So what is mental health? Mental health speaks to our cognitive, emotional, and behavioral well-being. Simply put, that is how we think, how we feel, how we behave. That is not just me, that is not just you, that's all humans. We think, we feel, and we behave. Those different elements speak to our mental well-being and our mental health. Mental illness is an ongoing mental health problem, an ongoing mental concern or mental ailment that compromises your overall functioning, compromises how you think, how you feel, how you behave, how you respond to yourself, how you understand the world around you, and how you respond to others. We attribute mental health to mental illness. That is why we look at the unpredictability and those areas of mental illness, and we perpetuate these stigmas associated with mental health, because we're not really referring to mental health. So I like to make that distinction and make that part of it clear. Mental health speaks to how we think, how we feel, how we behave. Our cognitive, emotional, our behavioral well-being. A major part of how we manage our mental health and how we preserve well-being is how we manage our stressors. As humans, we feel stress. If anyone tells me you never felt stress, I have to ask you why you're lying. If you ask me, if I said I've never felt stress, you have to ask me why I'm lying, because we're human. If you tell me you never felt stress, then I'm more concerned than if you tell me you're stressed all the time. That is more of a clinical red flag for me than if you tell me you're always stressed. Because as humans, we feel stressed by different things. What may stress me may not stress you, and that is okay. So what exactly is stress? Stress is a biological and a physiological response that we feel upon encountering a threat. That threat can either be real or perceived when we feel as though we don't have all of the resources to deal with it. That is what stress is. The stressor is that situation or the stimulus that make us feel stressed. Whatever makes us feel stressed, we call it the stressor. The stress, the feeling of stress, that's a biological and a physiological response that we feel or we experience upon encountering a threat when we feel as though we don't have all of the resources to deal with it. How does stress affect us? Stress affects us in a number of different ways. We always hear stress being the silent killer. And the symptoms and the effects of stress are way too commonly overlooked. Again, with trainees. So for example, one of the effects of stress, we have some physical effects, right? We have the body aches, the body pains, neck pains, some chest pains, some shoulder pains, a pain in your back. But with trainees, so it's gas, automatically it's gas. Or maybe you slept bad. No, you didn't sleep bad, or you don't have gas. For 2 months, you're eating your raw garlic and your orange peel tea and your ginger and your this and that to break your gas. It may not be gas, you may be stressed. And the effects of the stress are manifesting with these physical symptoms. Some persons have it as bad as the nausea and vomiting. We have gastrointestinal discomfort. Some persons have increased blood pressure. Those are the physical symptoms of stress. We also have the emotional symptoms of stress, where what we call the emotional volatility. Your emotions are all over the place. Yeah, have you ever had the experience where you tell someone something now and they are fine? 5 minutes later, you have a conversation with them and they're totally different. They present as totally different people. And we might even say, as trainees, we throw about these terms so loosely. We throw about the term, you bipolar or what? Or you have mood swings or what? Why are you getting on so? Your emotional well-being might be compromised. So your emotions are volatile. You're not able to emotionally regulate as you usually would be when you function at your optimum, when you function at your best. Right? So we call it the emotional volatility. You're easily irritated, you're agitated. That feeling you feel when you're hungry and you don't want anybody to tell you anything but food, you're irritated all the time. That is how we feel when we feel overwhelmed and stressed, when our emotional well-being is compromised. Then we have our cognitive well-being. We have the cognitive effects of stress, our cognitive well-being being compromised. We're not able to process information like we usually do. We're not able to remain oriented to one task. Usually you might find yourself completing your assignment or completing a task in one sitting. Now you're taking multiple breaks. You have a much higher degree of distractibility. So you're not able to stay focused, you're not able to remain focused and oriented. You're forgetting things easily. You rest down something here now, 5 minutes later, you can't remember where you rested down. So that is causing you some challenges. Your cognitive well-being is compromised. You feel more distorted. You feel sometimes disoriented. Someone mentioned you with one of the presenters. You used the word earlier, comfortable. Sometimes you feel that way because there's so much happening there. Your cognitive well-being is compromised. It's not functioning at its best. And then we have the behavioral effects of stress. Some of the behavioral effects of stress would be in terms of how it affects our sleep patterns. Sometimes we oversleep, sometimes we undersleep. So a lot of us, we have problems with, as we call it, the insomnia, where you're getting very little to no sleep. So you wake up feeling harassed, you wake up feeling frustrated and miserable. And on the flip side, we have the hypersomnia, where you're getting hours of sleep, 12 hours of sleep, 15 hours sleep, but you still wake up feeling harassed, you wake up feeling miserable, you wake up feeling as though you got no rest at all. So it affects us either way. Sometimes it can affect our eating patterns. Sometimes we have a loss of appetite. you feel overwhelmed and stressed, you just can't eat. And then sometimes we overeat. So we reach for that comfort food, so we stress eat. And it's okay to feel stress, it's okay to feel the effects of stress. A major part is managing these effects of stress and how we manage these stressors, especially during a pandemic, during these COVID times. So in managing stress, how we manage stress is very individualized, very specific to you. So how I manage my stress may not be how you manage your stress. And we have to find different ways of managing our stresses and managing our experiences. So you find what works for you, you capitalize on that. If it doesn't work well, you find some alternative, you do something different. You incorporate a new element into the equation that helps you find ways of managing your experiences. So either you might be able to, so for me, example, I'm an outdoor kind of guy. I like to go to the beach. I like going on a hike. That is my thing. Now that we have these restrictions, I can't go to the beach. What do? So I engage in my plans. I do painting. I do music. I dance. I do different things that allow me to feel how I felt when I would be going to the beach or going on a hike. So we find different ways of managing these experiences within these restrictions during the pandemic. So I just want to leave by saying, just remember, mental health is health. We all have mental health, just as everyone has physical health. Not everyone has a physical illness, just as not everyone has a mental illness. And we have a divine responsibility to take care of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodriguez, for that lovely contribution, especially when you spoke about how we can even help manage our stress during the pandemic. Although we may not be able to leave physically to go anywhere, there are still some activities that we can do.
That's the important part.
Indoors, yes, definitely. So I know you would have mentioned in the beginning that there's a specific stigmatization when it comes to mental health, especially in the Caribbean. Speaking to Trinidad and Tobago, can you tell us some of the ways that us, some adolescents within university, can help break that stigma when it comes to dealing with mental illness and mental health?
Right. I would say continue to build awareness, continue to have an understanding for yourself and to have persons understand that mental health is health. Mental health is just as important as your physical health. Mental health doesn't speak to mental illness. When we speak about mental health, we speak about how well we are functioning, our levels of wellness, our areas of wellness, cognitive well-being, emotional well-being, social well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, behavioral well-being, all of these areas. And we're not speaking about mental illness, and we're not just speaking about the challenges with mental health. Mental health speaks to how we function at our best, how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. It deals with how we function at our optimum levels. And having persons understand that, it kind of creates an opening to have more of these meaningful discussions on mental health as well as the stigmas associated with mental health. So that's an avenue there to clarify some of the associations with mental illness. So, just building awareness, having persons understand that mental health is important, just as important as our physical health, because your physical health could be 100% intact, but your mental health is compromised. Your overall functioning is compromised. So having persons understand the importance of mental health and how we experience mental health differently could help circumvent some of the challenges associated with mental health and mental illness.
Thank you so much for that. We will continue to do the needful and spread as much awareness as possible as we are doing here right now. And finally, I'd just like to ask you, why would you say mental health awareness is so important to you, considering all of the work that you've done so far up to this point?
For me, because I'm human as well. So yes, I advocate mental health, but I too have to practice what I preach, because I too could remain in a compromised position after I've engaged someone and you come and you pour your experiences, we work through something therapeutically. You leave feeling lighter, but I can now be feeling heavier after you have, poured out your experiences and we've worked through these challenges. So I now have to ensure that I take care of me so that I'm now not compromised as well. I've helped you in a situation where I can make you feel lighter. I have to ensure that I also work through my own experiences so that I feel lighter. I can't pour from an empty cup. So I have to ensure that I have more emotional deposits than withdrawals. So when I experience these stressful situations, I am still able to pour from my cup.
Thank you so much for those
You're
Once
most
again,
welcome.
amazing words. We really appreciate the advice and your personal response when it comes to dealing with mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that we are coming to the end of our panel discussion on mental health and our Afternoon of Mindfulness Forum. This is the first activity that we will be having for the day. Next up, we will be having our yoga session, who I will invite now, Miss Bernie Antoine, Miss Games Committee Chair, to tell us a bit about.
Good day, everyone. So, thankful for all the panelists who discussed. It was really eventful, it's really informative. For the personal experience touch in there, I really like that aspect of it. Heading into the next session is the yoga session. We have our instructor, Cassandra Pemberton, and who is going to allow us to do a little stress reliever, a little relaxation. So let's look forward and come back on for the yoga session. I'm passing it back on to you, Tanika.
Thank you so much for reminding us to tune in. We just like to say a very special thank you to all of the panelists who would have spoken today. Today we would have had with us the Student Activities Chair, Ms. Jordan Pereira, followed by Games Committee Chair, Ms. Bernadette Antoine, as well as Mr. Darian Thomas, National Affairs Committee Chair, and Ms. Rashida Ram Kilawan. She is the President of the Student Psychology Association, followed by Mr. Justin Rodriguez, who is an educational psychologist. So thank you so much, everyone, for all of the insightful and very motivating and inspirational words today on mental health. We will continue to do our part and be part of the fight, bringing awareness to mental health. And thank you so much for everyone joining us on Facebook, joining us on YouTube. This is it for the first event that we have. So thank you so much for tuning in. I was your host for today's proceedings, Tamika Thomas, Public Relations Officer for the Guild of Students 2021-2022. We do now invite you to stay tuned for our yoga session. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Kobe Sandy and I am the President for the Guild of Students on Augustine campus. And I'm happy to join the conversation on the project Mental Health Matters, Stop the Stigma, Start the Conversation. And is indeed where platforms like these we must use to really and truly continue the fight in stopping the stigma that we have often attached to mental health issues. And of course, offer our guidance regarding coping with mental health challenges. We know we live in a society where mental health issues are often regarded as something very taboo, where we often call persons who are perceived as mental health challenged as mad people, crazy, senile, and all of the uncouth names we often portray on someone who have mental health issues. But really and truly, we fail to understand that many of us, almost all of us, once we have a mind, once we have a mentality, we often have issues regarding our mental health in many ways, whether it be home, work, or otherwise. But in order to stop the stigma, we must be able to restart and, of course, change the way we speak on mental health. We must change our language regarding mental health. We must not look at mental health as something that is so abnormal, something that is inhumane. We mustn't perceive someone who might be going through episodes of depression, episodes of other mental health issues and challenges, and even health challenges, that they are out of the world, that they are senile and inhumane. We must change our conversation regarding mental health. And we must look at the way we must first accept that we all face challenges with our mental well-being. We must also understand that we must, of course, use ways to improve one's mental health, and of course to be a confidant and be one to assist someone who might be going through even severe mental health issues. But how can we deal with mental health challenges? One, of course, we must, if someone is going through a severe case of a mental health disorder, they ought to seek professional help. Seek professional help. Remember, mental health is just as important as physical health. And of course, once you go for professional help, you'll be able to demystify your challenges. And they who are trained in solving mental health issues, they who are trained will be able to give you sustained advice, good advice, concrete advice to improve your well-being. Two, we must of course find your chi. Find your chi. Whether it be art, whether it be dance, whether it be drama, whether it be drawing, whether it be looking, at the flora and fauna, whether it be gardening, do what you can to give you the coping mechanism, I should say, to assist your being and to provide that coping mechanism to, of course, win and to conquer and defeat any challenge that we come across. Also, surround yourself with people who are positive. We often realize that our friends, our colleagues, our family might be the main contributors to our mental health challenges. What you need to do is to find a community, find people who will be able to add value to your system, to add value to your space, to add value to your being, so you wouldn't be going down a road that is mentally distraughting, that is mentally frustrating for you. So again, change the way we speak as a society regarding mental health. And of course, if it is that you may have a friend, a family, a sister, a brother, a neighbor who is experiencing challenges, advise them to seek professional help. You may not be the professional, but of course what you can do is to advise them of such. Let them get to the nearest psychologist, to the nearest therapist, and there are people in Trinidad and Tobago and the region that offer these services. Of course, if you can't do that, the Ministry of Community Development has have mediation services free of charge for you to tap in that resource and to get the assistance that you need. And don't forget, let us stop the stigma and start a positive conversation regarding mental health. Thank you.